roll them. One of, I have an array of attorneys that I work for, and one of them is a devout Roman Catholic, and I years ago, I've had them 20 years. Years ago, I made the comment about, I quoted a verse or something, and he looked at me and said, "What?" And I said, "Verse of Scripture, don't you know that?" He went, "Oh, that's priest job." Well, he lost a good friend of his and had to go to the celebration of worship, and they graduated from John Carroll together. And Bruce called me that night, and he said, "I want to tell you something." I said, "What?" And he said, "My friend, who I had not seen in a while, he started going to the Protestant church, and he said his pastor said something that really hit home with me." And I said, "What was that?" And he said that the deceased realized you don't need a middleman. You can go directly to the Lord. And I thought, okay, all these years that I have prayed, it's coming around. And so I have, I've got him a Bible. I'm going to give it to him and say, well, now that you've had this revelation, you can start reading the Bible yourself. Get in here, lady. We have missed you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So what does that mean? He thinks they're saying that you don't have to go through Jesus?
You don't have to go through the priest. You don't have to go through the priest to receive forgiveness. Yeah.
Pray to Mary and she'll tell her son.
Yeah, you can go directly to the source. All right. Lesson. It's June, so it is what? Pride Month again. It's been a year since Target rolled out their transgender kids line, and I will have you know that it's not in the stores this year. There's just very mild stuff, like rainbow glasses. They had a 10 billion market value loss in 10 days when they put all that stuff in the store, all because of y'all, all because of the patrons. So I hate to tell you, but Walmart has it now. It is online. But this is a trend of inclusion that makes me want to gag. Stay out of Target, though. All right, I warned y'all back in 2016 when they opened the dressing rooms to any team member and guest who identified as a different gender other than their body. I guess that's how you say it. And they allowed them to go to the restrooms and the fitting rooms. I told y'all the telltale sign was the day they did it, and it was the second highest holy day on the pagan calendar. It was Beltane. Y'all know it. Y'all know it as May Day. But that was a sign. So stay out of Target. News. Elna is here for the news. Not only did the governor of Louisiana sign into law that you have to have proof of citizenship to vote, he signed a law demanding that the 10 Commandments in poster form, you got to be able to read it on the wall in every school in that state. And the ACLU is having a meltdown come apart. And I'm going to enjoy this so much.
Born in Louisiana.
There you go. You governor, I'm liking him. I'm liking him a lot. Okay, what else is in the news? How many of y'all knew that there are Russian warships in Havana Harbor?
Oh, yeah.
I got a few that didn't know. Where are my articles? Let's see. I have the entire tenure of Lindsey Graham in the Senate, I have never agreed with one word that man said until wife, Amala, who is a barrister, she had a big hand in this. And of course, they were at the huge fundraiser for the reelect Biden campaign along with Julia Roberts and gag me, please. One thing that was upsetting is that Ireland, Norway, and Spain this week said that they will recognize a Palestinian state.
Oh, wow.
You watch for judgment to come. It will. God's universal policy, what? I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. So it's coming. This was interesting. The truth is seeping out about COVID, about the vaccinations. And the former CNN anchor, Chris Como, he is suffering from what is, I think they term it vaccination injury. And he is being treated for that with ivermectin, the drug that, the drug that he swore, don't take this.
He did go public with it.
Well, it's coming out that in the COVID era, Big Farm has made, y'all ready for this? $90 billion from the vaccinations. CVS and Walgreens had contracts for over $1 billion apiece to pull ivermectin from their shelves and refuse to fill it. Stay out of those two. CVS and Walgreens. Did y'all hear? Right. We talked last time about all of these closings. Rite Aid is closing 500 stores.
Walgreens?
Rite Aid. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. More news. We have been praying about this for 2 years now, about the WHO agreement that did not pass. The agreement was that you had to sign. There's this new constitution that they are recommending that not if, but when there is another pandemic, you have to let the WHO take over your country and surrender your sovereignty. Well, the president of Slovakia, he figured that out, and he led the opposition of this, and it failed. So we're not going to have to worry about that right now. However, right after he did that, there was an assassination attempt on his life.
Surprise.
So he's a good guy. He is a white hat. Let me put these back. Where am I? All right. We talked about all of the closings last time. We talked about the restaurant closings. And now, since Governor Newsom in California, in his infinite wisdom, has secured a $20 an hour minimum wage, you have got a fast food closing right and left. I felt so sorry. The people that had the Arby's on Sunset Boulevard for 55 years, they had to close their doors because it was no longer profitable. Okay, this is part of the plan. They are trying to destroy California's economy. I mean, you think about it. California and Texas have got a gross domestic product as bigger than most countries. So anything to bring it down. Let me make this point. Newsom is a globalist, but a month ago, if you had asked me, are they going to slide him in for the election and replace Biden, I would have told you yes. But have y'all noticed the past 4 or 5 weeks how Hillary has been everywhere? She was on the Tony Awards the other night. Yeah, she is front and center. Do not be surprised if that is the substitution, because it's coming. We last time we met, we talked about the dollar is going to die, and I presented the article about the BRICS developing their own currency. And by the way, 59 countries have applied to join BRICS. And I will have you know that I said something to one, and y'all, this man is brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant, but unfortunately, he only listens to the gospel of CNN. And I said something to him about, what did you think about the BRICS developing their own currency? And he said, what BRICS? The American public, y'all are the exception to the rule, okay? The American public has no earthly idea what's coming down the pike. Since we met and we discussed that the dollar is going to die, the petrodollar agreement was not renewed. Just to review real quick, back in the 70s, President Nixon took us off the gold standard to fight inflation. And Henry Kissinger took a play out of the Mafia Handbook. He went to Saudi Arabia and said, we're going to provide you protection for your oil fields. But I need you to do just one little thing for me. I just need you to sell your oil in U.S. dollars. And all of those extra dollars, I need you to put them in Treasury, U.S. Treasury bonds. And the 50-year agreement has expired, and there's a new sheik in town. What's his name? Mohammed bin Salman. And he has led his country to join BRICS. So look at how many of the oil-producing nations are joining this affiliation with Russia and India and China. The handwriting's on the wall, y'all. And when we talked about last time the dream that Pastor Dana had about the hyperinflation, please understand, the increase in cost in goods and services that we're experiencing in the grocery store right now, that is not inflation. It is a result of inflation. Inflation is the increase of currency in circulation. You think about it. All of the countries that had to have the dollar to purchase oil from OPEC, they don't need them anymore. So that's going to come crashing back on our shores. We have had the printing press running for the COVID PPP money, for the SBA loans. You've got, there was something else I was trying to think of. The stimulus money. But all of that, it's just causing all of this inflation. And couple that with the petrodollar is dying, we will no longer be the reserve currency. So his dream is going to come to fruition. I think he said it was around Christmas. He saw that either this year or next year. I don't know, but we're in that window. Many of y'all have asked me how to prepare for this, and I have been reluctant to tell you. I will say this, and I'm quoting from the largest bank in the world, the Bank of International Settlements, and they have declared that the only way to fight inflation is with gold. Gold, silver, precious metals, and investing in Israel. There you go. That's a blessing. Can God fix this economic hurricane that's headed our way? Yes. But he's not going to until this nation is on her knees, and he will revive us from the dead. And he will get credit for this, not Donald Trump. Yeah. I know this sounds irrational. America's best days are ahead, but this is going to be a painful process. And you have got to believe the Rhema words of the Lord. You either believe them or you don't. There's no middle ground. And we've had this verse for 4 years, 2 Chronicles 20:20. Believe the word of the prophets and you will prosper. There's another blessing that's guaranteed. But in order to believe everything that has been prophesied over 4 years, you have to have what my brother employee, Antonio, he's worked for my brother for about 20 years, and he tells my brother, your sister, she got that crazy faith. And y'all have got to have crazy faith to get through what we're fixing to go through. I want to take some time and share some things that have happened and just to encourage you. And each one of y'all are here for a reason today. Everybody needs encouragement. And I think I shared this story probably about 7 or 8 years ago. There was a man, he was working on a job site, and he had, it was Friday evening, and I don't remember exactly what he did, but he needed a 12-foot chain, and he had only grabbed a 10-foot chain. And they could not finish their work because the chain was too short. And so he, being a man of faith, he gathered his employees together, and he started calling on the Lord. And he said, Father, you know I got to finish this job so that I can get paid to pay these men. And I need a 12-foot chain. And I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know where it's going to come from. I just know that it is. And you have already done this. And before he could finish praying, a truck, they were working in a corner. A truck came around this hairpin corner, and the tailgate was open, and it slung a 12-foot chain at that man's feet. Well, I told my brother that story. And he called me one Saturday morning, and he said, you remember that story you told me about the guy with the chain? I said, yeah. And he said, Friday evening, he was in Podunk, Alabama. I don't remember where he was. But he said, my brother does what's called property preservation. He goes in and fixes up foreclosures so the bank can sell them. And they've been working one day at this house, and he sent the rest of them back to the shop, and he had, I think, one worker with him. And he came out, and he had a flat tire in his truck. And he said, I remembered that chain. And he said, I stood there in the driveway, and I said, Lord, we have cleaned this house from top to bottom. There is nothing in that garage. However, my air compressor is missing the little piece on the end. It's called an air chuck. And he said, I'm going to go back in that house. I'm going to go back in that basement, and there's going to be an air chuck somewhere, somehow. And Brian said, Peggy, this was a woman's house. This was not a guy's house. And he said, I walked into the garage, and this is an important part, okay? It was Friday evening. He needed to get back to the shop to pay his guys. Walked in the basement, looked down on the floor on the left, and there was an air chuck. Crazy faith. Now, like I said, Antonio has been working for Brian for about 20 years, and as my brother's faith is growing, Antonio's is growing by leaps and bounds. My brother had a situation with an employee a couple of weeks ago. Well, I'll tell you. I can tell y'all. He hired this guy probably about a year ago, and Antonio was working with him one day, and he came back to the shop, and he said, Brian, Rick's been talking to me in another voice that ain't his. And Brian had shared a couple of things with me, and I said he's demonically possessed. And he was working with my brother on a job site in Bessemer, and I don't know what Rick did, but Brian came off of that ladder, and he said, I looked at him, and I commanded that demon, you ain't never going to speak to me again. I have had it with you. And Brian said he turned and ran, and they ain't seen him since. Well, a couple of days later, Brian's giving out orders that morning. They start at 7. And Brian told Antonio and Matthew, when y'all get finished, I need y'all to come meet me at this other job site. We're going to finish up. And Antonio said, Brian, that's going to put us 7 o'clock getting home tonight. Just call Rick, okay? He knows what we do. He knows how to do. Just please call Rick. And Brian said, Antonio, God is going to send me an employee. I ain't worried about it. Antonio walked out of the office and walked out the door, came back in, hollered at Brian, said, hey, there's some guy here that wants to talk to you. And Brian's like, great, I ain't got time, we got to get gone. And he walked outside and he said, this boy said, are you Mr. Donovan? He said, I am. And he introduced himself and he said, sir, I need a job. I'll do anything. And yes, Antonio was standing right there. Supernatural faith. You cannot look at what is coming in the natural. It's defeating. You must look at this. Every event that we're going to see, you've got to look at it in the supernatural. That God's hand is on it, even when it doesn't look like it is. His hand is on it. A dear friend of mine, they go to Belize every year. And when they go, they take shoes and socks and the little like math workbooks and things for the kids. And Terry has a whole big suitcase full of it. Well, when they went this year, it spilled over into another suitcase. They were going to be there a week or 10 days. So she and John had 3 suitcases, and that was a red flag. So they come off the plane, they get their bags, and they get directed to a certain section of customs. And Terry said, I'm sitting there going, they're going to open this. I don't know what we're going to do. And she said, I just told the Lord, look, what's in that suitcase is for your glory. And we don't have the money to pay taxes on it. And I need you to move now. And she said, Peggy, before I could say now, somebody tapped me on the shoulder. And she said, I'm like, oh, no. And he said, I think you've been standing in this line too long. Give me your customs form. He marked it and said, y'all can go out that door right there. You're going to hear more and more and more. Her husband is a self-employed contractor. And before they left on this trip, he was in the drive-thru at Jack's getting him breakfast. And the Lord told him, when you pull up, I want you to take that $100 bill out of your wallet and I want you to pay for your breakfast with it and tell the girl, you pay for everybody's breakfast behind me until it runs out. And John, like me, being the faithful, humble, and obedient servant we are, said, are you crazy? You want me to do what? How many times have I said that to the Lord? And God said, do it. So he got the $100 bill out, and he gave it to the girl, and she said, your order's not ready. Will you please pull up? And, of course, everybody behind him's coming by, blowing the horn, the worst possible scenario. And about the 3rd or 4th person that he bought breakfast for, man pulled over. And he came over and he tapped on the window. And John rolled it down and he said, thank you for my breakfast. And he said, aren't you that guy that specializes in French drains? And John said, yeah. Gave him a $6,000 job.
Wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, Terry told me he didn't have a job schedule when they got back from Belize. There is going to be more and more stories like this that are going to come from you and me and other people that we know. But it's just like John wasn't necessarily expecting what he got, but Terry was. Terry was expecting the Lord to move on her behalf in that customs line, and he did. And we have to have expectant faith. I know the next year and a half are going to be really rough. And the globalists are going to use everything, every DA, every judge that can be bought. They cannot stop Trump from winning. It's impossible. But they're going to try. And I will have y'all know that when that guilty verdict came down and there's hooping and hollering all down the hall, I walked in my boss's office, him being in the most glorious mood he could be in, and I said, I want a raise. He said, okay, whatever you want. Timing is everything. Timing is everything, okay? And we have, speaking of time, we have 138 days left till the election. And there are going to be terrorist attacks. Watch the George Washington Bridge and the Lincoln Tunnel. We're going to have the worst stock market crash in history. We're going to have shortages. We're going to have outages. They're going to try and lock us down again. And I'm sure the blue states will be. Y'all have not heard one peep from Joe Biden, whichever one it is, on camera. Not one peep, yeah. Not one peep about trying to renegotiate the Has the petrodollar agreement been on any American news?
No.
Not a word. Not a word.
Yeah,
They are.
It was once.
It was.
It was on Newsmax.
Was it on Newsmax? Okay.
Newsmax.
Yeah, that's an exception. They cannot stop him from winning. So what they're going to do is they're going to do their best to absolutely obliterate the economy. So when he does get in, he's going to be blamed for it. But God has spoken through his prophets, and he has said, they think they're going to have a reset, but I am going to reset this. I am going to destroy the beast system. I'm going to raise up my system. So it's just we got to wait and watch. He is going to destroy Washington, D.C., but before he can do that, one thing has to happen. 1 Peter 4:17, judgment begins in the house of the Lord. The last 2 years, we have had Brian Houston from Hillsong resign. We have had Mike Bickle from IHOP that shocked me to death. We had Misty Edwards, who was their minister of worship, was having an affair with one of the other team members for the last 6 or 7 years. You have had Carl Lentz, who is the New York Hillsong pastor. He was fired for moral failure. T.D. Jakes has resigned, and what's about to come out on that man is going to be bad. Tony Evans resigned last week. Now, I want to read to you the rhema word that the Lord gave Amanda Grace concerning this. Oh, I gotta come back to that. That's right. I knew I forgot one. Yeah, that was a shocker. And you know, I've told y'all I have a list. I've had a list for a long time, and the Lord has told me one in particular. He said, "This one's even going to shock you." This was what the Lord prophesied through Amanda a couple of weeks ago. I am cleaning my house, and I am bringing in the right people with the right heart posture who love me and do not lobby for what is not of me. The Spirit of the Lord says this day, I am God and there is no other. I am and I will always be. And in this hour, shepherds shall be humbled and brought low, and their corrupted books opened wide by my hand to expose their abuse. They have been found wanting. Shepherds are surrendering to sin rather than the sin surrendered at my altar. Rectification is now. Y'all are going to be disappointed a lot. There's going to be a lot of people that we have held dear for a long time that are going to surprise us. And then there's going to be those that we have been expecting the Lord to strike dead, like Andy Stanley, that we won't be surprised. How that man has got breath in his body is beyond me. But
So who's the one person you said we're gonna be really surprised?
I don't know. The Lord told me.
No.
No, I have my list, and the Lord told me. He said, "Peggy, there's going to be one that's going to shock you.
Okay.
Going to shock
You don't
me."
know
So,
who it is. Okay.
I have. I think I have. My brother especially has that discernment. He has just y'all. He knows stuff about. I'm like, how you know that? He's. I just know. But and with your faith, your discernment will grow. Wisdom will grow. Now, even though we're approaching that threshold where everything is going to be turned upside down and shaken. Let's go to Haggai. I'm telling y'all better know these minor prophets, because I'm going to be a short little Jewish man run up to you in heaven and go, how'd you like my book? All right, Haggai 2, 6 and 7. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once again, in a little while, I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all the nations. It's coming. It's coming, but you're going to be prepared. Your faith is going to get you through this. I have a question for y'all. Can faith be seen? That's a good question. Kind of like that one I proposed last week about, is there quantum teleporting in the Bible? Okay,
It's
let's
the
go.
evidence of things unseen.
Let's go to. Hang on. We're going to Luke chapter 5. My tabs are all bent. Okay. Luke chapter 5, 17. And it came to pass on a certain day, Yeshua was teaching where the Pharisees and the doctors of the law were sitting. And they came out from every town of Galilee, Judea, and Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was present to heal them. And behold, men brought in a bed and a man that was taken with palsy. And they sought a means to bring him in and lay him before Yeshua. They could not find a way, so they went on top of the roof, and they cut a hole, and they lowered him down in the midst of Yeshua. And immediately he saw their faith. Their actions proved to the Lord they had enough faith. We just got to get him in front of him, and he will be healed. Faith is a weapon. Use it.
That's just like the centurion.
Oh, yes, the centurion. All right, let's go to Romans 10. I did not mark this. All right, Romans 10. Hang on. Romans 10, 17. It's a lot faster when I have these marked. Faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Lord. To grow your faith, how do you do it? Get in this word.
Read.
Speak it. Speak it. Read it out loud. Get it into the atmosphere. There are two types of people. There was a farmer who prayed for rain, and he waited on it to rain. There was another farmer that prayed for rain. He went out, he prepared his fields. Who got the rain? That one. Expectancy. You're putting the Lord on the spot to say, hey, I've done all I can do. It's on you. And that's when he shows up. I hope I have encouraged y'all with the stories of the chain and the air chuck and my friend Terry going to Belize. But there's one more thing we're going to do before we leave. Let's go to, this is y'all's homework. Hebrews 11 is known as the Hall of Fame, the Faith Hall of Fame. And I want y'all to study that this month. But Hebrews, the whole chapter, this is faith defined, Hebrews 11, but this is verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. All right, let me go back to Romans real quick. Romans 4, and Cheryl, you and I love this. This is what we live for. Romans 4:17. This is halfway down the verse. Who quickened, talking about Yeshua, who quickened the dead and called those things which are not as though they were. Speak of things that are not as though they are. My kids are saved. My prodigal is home. Speak of it. How many of y'all have got Brenda Kuhneman's Decree book? I bought those for y'all, okay? Read it. Read it in the first person. Make those declarations over yourself. That is present tense, not future tense. It's just like, Paul wrote, we were healed. Not we're going to be, we are. We were healed. We were healed over 2,000 years ago. So it's yours. It's yours for the receiving. The Protestant church, God love them, the majority of them, it's like, okay, I just got back from the beach, okay? And if I hadn't read the contract, I got free beach chairs. So I took advantage of my free beach chairs and my free umbrella. But had somebody not read the promise, they don't necessarily get it. I'll never, ever forget when I got some bad news about a friend of mine who had lost his sobriety. And my knee-jerk reaction was, oh, God, please save him. And as clear as I'm talking to you, he said, quit asking me to do things I have empowered you to do. So I got busy and I bound that spirit away from him. I loosed freedom over him. It's in your mouth, y'all. It's in your spirit. It's in your faith. Let me read this to you, and then we have something we're going to do. All right, Julie wrote this last month. Are you ready for miracles? Are you prepared? Well, get ready, because soon is close, and it's closer than you think, and things will begin to happen that have never happened on earth before. My children, this is the time for more manifestations of the supernatural to show you and the world that I am a supernatural God. I am not limited to natural things, and neither are you. You may be asking, Lord, what is the supernatural? My power and anointing that the natural things in man or science cannot explain. It is taking a dying person and making them completely whole. It is taking blind eyes and opening them to see. It is taking a person who is paralyzed one minute and the next he is jumping and running and dancing. These things are not impossible for me. They're easy. And it is what I have for you in this time and even more. Expect more from the supernatural. Expect more of me, and you will see my glory in greater measures, saith the Lord. Quit asking him to do the easy stuff. Ask him to do the impossible. Now, what did Jesus say about the impossible? Matthew 17, verse 20. And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, and you say to that mountain, hence to yonder place, go jump in the ocean. There's my translation. It shall move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Now let me reiterate. Your mountain knows your voice. And you are the only person that can make it move. All right, one more of the, quote, minor prophets real quick. This is Habakkuk. Habakkuk. How do I say it? Habakkuk? Okay. Verse 2. Oh, here, verse 1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say to me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered to me, and he said, write the vision, make it plain. For the vision is for an appointed time. It shall speak, shall not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it. It will come. And what is the verse after that? The just shall live by faith. Write down your miracle. And all you have to have is the faith of a mustard seed. So, y'all have a little, come here, Judy. Y'all, you and Peggy pass these out. Pass these out for me, please. This tiny little thing right here, that is a mustard seed. And I have included a little lined form. And I want y'all to go home, and I want y'all to take it out, and I want you to write your miracles down.
Oh, you're so good.
I was with a good friend of mine at the beach, and I asked her, I said, what miracles are you expecting from the Lord? And she didn't rattle off any off the top of her head, and I'm like, man, I got a list. I badger the Lord daily. Y'all, honestly. And this just... And you want to have this rapport with your Father. I told the creator of the universe the other day, chop, chop, let's get busy on this. But that's the relationship you want with him. Yes, we have that reverence that he is the Most High God, but he's our Father. And I want y'all to write down everything that you need. I mean big stuff, huge stuff.
We're not limited by this little piece of paper, are we?
Oh, no. Trust me, mine won't fit on page. I have to have more than one, 8.5 by 11. But if your faith needs to grow, ask the Lord. But I want y'all to put on those pieces of paper the impossible. The impossible. I have been asking him for how many years now, and y'all have stood in agreement that I will be financially free and never have to go back to that law firm and can do this full time. And it's coming. I am at that law firm for a purpose, and I know that. But soon those days are going to be over, and y'all are going to have way more of me than you want.
You're a very good charity manager. Did you know that?
Somebody asked me one time in front of my brother, I have 7 attorneys that I work for, and somebody asked me in front of Brian, what do you do for a living? And my brother said, she's a den mother. Yeah, that's about right. But it's just like Queen Esther, each one of us are called to where we are at this particular time. And just hang on, y'all, because as you speak your faith and wait for it expectantly, it's going to happen. Cheryl, have you dropped your mustard seed? Well, that's all it takes, that little teeny mustard seed, so.
Lord, find the
All righty, let me pray over y'all and we'll get out of here.
all it found.